The Chinese built walls to define their spaces, to keep strangers at a distance and members of the clan within. Some walls may have had ritual significance as well. But ancient China was a hostile realm, and most of the serious walls were probably built for defensive purposes, with nomads raiding from the north and neighboring territories ever alert for signs of weakness. A wall was considered a strategic military necessity. By the end of the 8th century BC, the land that would become China had entered a period of interstate strife that would last for 500 years. It consisted of dozens of feudal states and tiny fiefdoms ruled by warlords, bound loosely to a ruling dynasty whose power was more spiritual and ritualistic than actual. By the middle of the 4th century BC, chivalry and allegiance to the king had given way to self-interest and butchery. It was during this warring states period that the Chinese began building defensive walls in earnest. The state of Qi built a wall along its southern border to keep out the armies of Chu. Chu built a northern barrier to protect themselves against Qin. Yan and Chao built walls to keep out northern barbarians and each other. In all, some 2,800 miles of walls were built along the frontiers of the various fighting states.
At some time, there were about 120 different states. By the time you get to the height of the Warring States period, there are only 7 states left. There has been tremendous destruction of these small independent states throughout China.
Out of the bloodshed and destruction of the Warring States period, the major philosophies of China began to evolve, as learned men tried to figure out what had gone wrong and how to make it right. In the 5th century BC, Confucius stressed the need for strict observation of the rules and conduct of relationships between man and heaven, and deplored the necessity for wars and walls. Another group of thinkers, the Taoists, sought answers in nature and believed everything to be in a constant state of flux between the forces of yin and yang. Therefore, struggle and war were pointless. Had either of these major philosophies become the state philosophy, it is unlikely that the Great Wall would ever have been built. But the state of Qin adopted legalism, a harsh totalitarian system of rules, punishments, and just rewards.
There's a very nice story about the crown keeper and the coat keeper. The king falls asleep one night in front of the fire, and the crown keeper comes in and sees His Majesty is cold, so he puts the cloak on top of the king. The king wakes up and says, "Who put the coat on me?" And the crown keeper says, "I did." And the king immediately executes the crown keeper because that was not his job.
These principles guided the Qin armies in the 3rd century BC, when, according to a Han Dynasty historian, they began moving across the map of China, absorbing the other states as a silkworm devours a mulberry leaf. In 246 BC, a pivotal event of enormous significance occurred. A 13-year-old boy ascended to the throne of Qin. He was to become known as Qin Shi Huangdi, the first sovereign emperor of China. Legend says he flew to the moon on a magic carpet in a dream. Looking down, he saw his kingdom was vulnerable to his enemies, who were many, and at the mercy of invaders from all sides. He roused his advisors from sleep and announced, "I will build a great wall." The original Chinese symbol for the word country depicted a walled enclosure. By 500 BC, the symbol had evolved to include a soldier within the enclosure. In 1974, farmers digging a well uncovered an astonishing archaeological find. A cache of terracotta soldiers, bowmen, chariots, and horses, all life-size, and each one different, as if modeled from life. To date, more than 6,000 figures have been excavated, an entire terracotta army designed to fight the battles of a great king in the next life, or perhaps guard his eternal rest in his realm. Nearby lay the tomb of China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huangdi, known as the only first. According to accounts handed down by later dynasties, Qin Shi Huangdi's claim to the throne of Qin was of dubious origin. His mother was an enthralling young dancer and concubine to a prosperous traveling merchant who was as cunning as he was wealthy. While trading at a royal court, the merchant asked her to dance for the young Qin heir. When the princely heir fell in love with her, the merchant gave the concubine to him, never mentioning that she was already pregnant with his own child. The prince died after a short reign, and Qin Shi Huangdi ascended to the throne while still a child. As the boy king matured, he began to show signs of eccentric behavior and paranoia. He banished his mother and ordered his father, the former merchant who had ruled during his boyhood, to commit suicide. He surrounded himself with soothsayers, sorcerers, and necromancers, and shrewd, unscrupulous advisors. Around 234 BC, he sent his army out to complete the conquest of China. His Qin predecessors had begun.
By the Warring States period, you have independent states slugging it out. And finally, only 5 are left, only 4 are left, only 3 are left, and then only 1 is left. And in 221 BC, China is unified. When the state of Qin destroys the state of Qi,
the king declared himself first sovereign emperor of a new land he named China after his dynasty, and moved quickly to consolidate his power.
Qin Shi Huangdi really did create an empire where there had not been one before. He built a national road or highway system. He standardized the Chinese script. He unified Chinese currency. He standardized the empire. He made it one big single entity. And coupled with that was this incredible interest in magic and alchemy, and the belief that somehow he could defy all mortal bounds and live forever. He was a megalomaniac.
Qin Shi Huangdi standardized the kingdom's weights and measurements with a system based on the number 6, his magic number. He declared black his mystical color, the official color of all clothing, flags, and pendants of the realm, and elevated his title to that of the only first, thus decreeing that the Qin dynasty would rule forever. Then he decided to build a great wall.